And also that particular story fits snugly with our discussion this morning, where we're looking at the time of devolution. It's been 4 years right now. And of course, we want to see how it has shaken into place. We're looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly of the devolution, right? Hailing it a success or a failure. This is what we'll be discussing with our panelists here this morning. Allow me to introduce them to you once more. If you're just joining us this morning, we have with us Senator Kembi Gitura from Murang'a. Also, we have with us Governor Alfred Mutua from Machakos. We have Joshua Kiptoo, who is tutorial fellow at University of Nairobi and an advocate of the High Court. Also, we're eagerly waiting for Boni Khalwale, who is a senator from Kakamega. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Right, thank you for joining us on AM Live this morning, and we want to take stock of what is happening, because now we'll be actually winding up, looking at the first term of devolution and how it has been, shaking into place, the challenges, the victories, and also the learning points as well. Maybe we should begin with Mheshimiwa Senator Gitura. You tell us, first of all, what has been your experience so far with the devolution?
I've maintained, and I still maintain, that devolution is the greatest thing that has happened to this country since independence.
Yes.
It was informed by the fact that there was a very warped development plan in this country, that some parts of the country were receiving more resources than others, and all these resources were coming from the national till.
Yes.
So the thinking of devolution in the Constitution that we passed in August of 2010
yes,
was with a view to giving more equitable distribution of the national cake everywhere, regardless of whether or not people are perceived to be government-sided, regardless of whether people are perceived to be in the opposition. All of them are Kenyans.
Yes.
Each of them has a right. And the thinking was that in the first instance, the people of Kenya, regardless, must get an equitable distribution of the national cake. And that's what informed devolution. The other main thing, of course, was that it was important to have development closer to the people.
Yes.
With the governments, my friend Governor Alfred Mutua is here. If he forms a government in Machakos, the thinking was that the people of Machakos County would be closer to a government. They can touch the government, they can feel it, they can, they can throb with it, and they're able to develop together, because then the government is closer. The health was devolved to the county government, and properly done, it should have been felt everywhere. Unfortunately, the dream hasn't quite come true. It is still work in progress, but I believe that devolution, some people argue that devolution should be abolished. Some people argue that county government should be abolished, that Senate should be abolished.
Yes.
I think these are defeatists. There are people who do not really understand things the way they should be. But devolution, the moment it takes off and works properly the way it was conceived in the Constitution, people will find that was the greatest thing that has been done since independence, since the second liberation of the 1990s. Devolution is the single most important thing, in my very considered opinion. Yeah. And I'm sure we are going to discuss it further. I'm sure we are going to discuss the division of revenue and all those other things. But to answer your question generally, I think devolution is what is going to make this country change the day that everybody accepts and understands it, and the day everybody works towards making it work.
Thank you. Governor Mutua, the first 4 years, you hail it as a success, hits and misses?
It's been great. You see, the thing is, I totally agree with my brother here, the senator.
Yes.
That this gave people an opportunity to realize their dreams. Because, before, government was what they call central government.
Yes.
It was people living in Nairobi, eating in Nairobi, sleeping in Nairobi, making a decision about a villager who was 700 kilometers away, making decisions about how much you should or should not get, what should or should not be done, which road should or should not be constructed. So this has given people the power to do things. He's talked about healthcare. I mean, for me, healthcare is very important. And Machakos, I feel, has really developed in terms of healthcare. We've renovated our health centers, and we're continuing to renovate them. We have a, I think, I'll proudly say that the best you know, and cleanest level 5 hospital in this country, more efficient, better services to wananchi. Our hospitals, when we got in, people are sharing beds. 3, 4, you know, pregnant women and a mother who's given birth, people coming from surgery, sharing beds, others sleeping on the floor, dirty hospitals, you could smell them a mile away. Today, nobody shares a hospital bed in Machakos. Today, there's medicine in hospitals in Machakos. Things are working. So in terms of successes, we have been able to prove that it is possible. We've built tarmac roads that have been ignored for many years, that people have been crying and crying and crying for them. But then also we've had our challenges. Our challenges are mainly because the political elite, the wananchi are okay, but the political elite have not really understood the functions of governments, the county governments. And there's been this urge to control, to continue controlling the grassroots from Nairobi, either through the Senate or through the national government or through the treasury and others, without realizing that the constitution is very clear that there are 48 governments. There's one national government and 47 county governments, all supposed to work together but independent.
Right. Well, we're facing a big, maybe we'll come back to you much later, but let's hear from Joshua Kiptoo. Looking at the 4 years so far, the learning points, hits and misses, what will come up in your mind right now?
Thank you. I'll use your clear wordings, hit and a miss. A hit in the sense that it was the right time to have a rethink as to how we can develop, how we can spread out the services and what the government can do for the people. For the 45, 50 years, that was not the case. Now, we can all agree on the basis that the devolution or the county governments have taken the government to the people. That is the hit about it, and nothing can change about it. And in fact, it takes away the hit and focus from central government, which is a plus in the sense that citizen participation and their everyday concern about government is more when it comes to the county government than the national government, because it's something they can see, they can hold account to, they can attest to. A governor can't lie, for example, to the citizens, have done this, have done that. A central government can. If, for example, the central government goes to somewhere like Turkana and says we've done 1,000 kilometers elsewhere, there'll be so little difficult information to confirm that for the poor guys down there. But for the county governments, it can't. So the hit on it is that taking governance to the people, taking resources to the people, and letting people closer to the government is a hit. The miss is that the county governments took up the bad manners of the national governments. They devolved the bad manners. If only they would take the good bit of devolving the funds and agitating for more revenue, for more clout and everything, that would be a plus. But the miss is that the bad manners in the sense that things like poor governance has cropped in. And the worst bit of it is that, the county governments, they haven't been given adequate resources. If you look at the percentages that they're being given, we tabulate devolved funds based on 3-4 years ago's revenue. We don't use the current one. It is not up to date. The audited accounts that the government uses or the Commission of Revenue Allocation uses is 3-4 years behind. So at the end of the day, the amount we give down there is little. Now with the little that we give to the county governments, again, quite a bit of that is misappropriated. And the feeling would be there in the sense that if I give you 2 billion and you misappropriate, the impact is bigger than a government having, for example, 700 and they misappropriate 200. So the misappropriation bit. And then secondly, I think also it is taking time for the county governments to realize how much responsibility is in their hands in terms of the key areas. My key points I would pick out is agriculture and health. Those are critical aspects of the economy. They can project that they are viable as to how much they do in those two areas. And agriculture has been a big miss, especially for the counties that are supposed to be the bread baskets. Those are the areas we were supposed to see. So it's a miss also because in fact, I would empathize with them from a point of view is that they were setting up structures for the first time. So I'm more optimistic of the second county governments because the first county governments were starting from scratch. The idea of professionalism, like transitioning from local authorities to fully fledged county governments was not a thing. In my county, for example, it took a while for the residents to understand that you need a lean administration, you need the concept of a CEC and a chief officer whose role are different, that their role may not be political, but how they manage, like the chief officer is like the PS of the county. Now, setting up those structures and in calculating how a national government can run in a local setup was the first challenge. That's why I think the second county governments will have more opportunities, and for them, they'll be coming at a better slate. The first county governments have done the flag for them, have done the slack, like just laying the groundwork.
Yes.
Even with all the misses, the opportunity is now for the second group coming in after 2018.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and the biggest challenge also, maybe they faced when they're actually taking office, was also that transition period. Because there were no structures that were actually laid there.
There were structures. The transition, whatever, the TA was supposed to smoothen. It didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
We always have tough wars in the sense that agencies that are supposed to smoothen didn't work. There was a bit of chaos. The local authorities guys who left with assets and everything. County governments were like coming, trying to find out here, there. It was a struggle. The smooth didn't work because of failure.
Let's hear from Senator Kembi, because first of all, so many things fell through the cracks when there was that transition, because a lot of assets cannot really be accounted for, even up to date. You as a custodian now of devolution, we know as domicile in the Constitution, how did you address that? And what has been the learning point? Because maybe we'll experience the same scenario when we go now to 2017, 2018.
You see, my learned friend Kiptoo has talked about the transition authority, which was there actually, and which was supposed to do most of these things.
Yes.
And it is true that a lot of assets cannot be accounted for. And I don't believe that this has anything to do at all with the fact that these were first-time county governments, because we have a lot of startup businesses that work very well. I think one of the major problems that we had with the county governments was that a lot of them took advantage of what looked like, a chaotic situation. And if you read the article, if you read the fourth schedule of the Constitution, it talks about those devolved functions and those that are left to the national government.
Yes.
Sadly, and I say this very, very sadly indeed, it appears that although if you read part 2 of Schedule 4, you don't find it there. Sadly, it is to me appears that corruption also became one of the devolved functions from the national government to the county government, and that has been rampant. And people who keep blaming it on the fact that they say that this is the first as you call it, the first term of devolution.
Yes.
True, but that did not give a right to anybody, even county government. I'm not talking about all of them, because I'm sure there are some that where the citizens are satisfied with what the governors and their governments are doing. But unfortunately, in a majority of them, and I'm talking this from a point of knowledge because I sit in the Senate and we deal with these cases all the time, is that corruption appears to have been devolved, and there is tremendous corruption, particularly in procurement of services in the county governments. Lots and lots of money has been lost. And every year we get the auditor's report. Unfortunately, the auditor's report, as you know, is like a post-mortem report because it comes after the fact. And all we can do is try to pursue it. There are very, very many institutions in this country that are supposed to pursue these issues. A lot of them don't even care. They don't pursue the auditor's report or the recommendations that come from the Senate, and there are many. So there are all these issues that are there. The biggest problem, as far as I can see, over and above the corruption that is there, is lack of accountability. The new constitution assumed, and I'm sure Governor Alfred Mutua will agree with me, the new constitution assumed a situation where there will be public participation. And he talks a lot about public participation because the citizens ought to know. That's the reason the government was devolved, is so close to the people.
Yes.
That's why you have Huduma centers and everything in almost every county, so that citizens can participate and be part and parcel of the governorship or the rulership that they are getting from their county governments. In how they do the hospitals, we tell the people all the time that although we have devolved so much money, Kiptoo may say that it is little. It isn't. In context, it is not, because the Constitution talks about a minimum of 15%. I know it talks about the latest audited accounts. And the Senate has been working tirelessly to ensure that actually it is the latest audited accounts. Unfortunately, the latest audited accounts is approved by the National Assembly.
Yes.
Unfortunately, this always has a lag of about 2 or 3 years. So the latest audited accounts are not quite the latest. But then the Constitution also talks about a minimum of 15%. But everybody here will confirm that the national government has given, on average, about that 30 to 32% of the national cake to the county government, 32%. So even if you take into account that it's not the latest audited accounts, you still find that substantial amounts of money are going there. And it is not the amount of money that is not making things work. It is that lack of accountability. It is that flawed procurement systems. It is that corruption. And the citizen doesn't know what is going on. The citizen is not invited in a lot of cases to come and sit with the county government and say, this is the amount of money we have. This is how we think we should spend it. And we think that we need to hear your views on this because you know what is more urgent, what needs to be done now, what can be delayed. But that doesn't happen. They do, public participation or public forums that are so well calculated that only the people they want to go to attend these functions attend these functions. So that it's like a town hall meeting.
So these are the people who really pander to their whims.
Exactly. Okay. So nothing really happens. And this is what had advised or informed what is popularly now called the Sang Bill. The Sang Bill, which was to create the county development boards. The governors thought that the senators were going to usurp their powers. If you allow me a minute.
Yes.
But it was the most, in my view, the most meaningful bill that had come through Senate to assist in devolution. But now that Senator Sang has himself vied to being a governor, I hope that even if the law is still pending in the courts, and if he wins, I hope that his first agenda will be to constitute a county development board, so that we can see how it works in the counties.
All right, Governor Mutua, do you first of all agree with the position being espoused here by
No,
the governor?
I do not. There's theory and there's practice. I totally agree with my colleague here about some of the challenges that we have faced. And I agree with my senator here about the inherited corruption and some of the things and the bad habits.
Yes.
They are not just county government habits, they are Kenyan habits. We are a country that is really suffering from the cancer of corruption in all our areas. It's very unfortunate. When the county governments came in, they found other former municipal employees who continued with their habits. It's a cross-Kenyan habit. It's a very, very big problem in this country that if we don't tackle, we'll never actually achieve the dreams of our children, yes, and even the children that have not been born. When it comes also to issues of public participation, governors have really struggled actually to listen to wananchi, and we go to the ground and listen to wananchi. And it's amazing, at times you go to a place and you want to give them a road. You tell them, we build this road. They say, no. We just want a toilet and a mortuary.
Exactly.
And you have to listen to the voices of the people. You may think that a road is better or this program is better, but they want a mortuary. They're saying they're tired of driving 400 kilometers to get their loved ones to come and bury them. And so we've been undertaking a lot of public participation. The challenge to devolution...
Have you been holding this forum?
Oh yes, you have to.
We
have been holding forum, but it depends on county. My county, for example, we have actually been a county that holds our public participation to the grassroots. Whereas others do them at the ward level, we go all the way to the sublocation and village level, so that the information comes from the ground and we hold it, and then from there we are able to shape our resources and our programs accordingly. Now, the challenge we have faced as governors in this country, I think the biggest challenge has come from the Senate. And this is because I do believe that the senators did not understand devolution when they went in. I know my brother here did, because he's a very good lawyer, he's been in the service for long, but a lot of his colleagues did not.
Yes.
It was a matter of who is bigger than the other one. It was a matter who is more powerful than the other one. And so initially we saw at the very beginning a scramble of who is who, without realizing that county governments are independent governments, and their role and the role of the governor is basically to use the word rule the people,
Yes.
you know, and guide the people towards development. That is what happened. The senators, on the other hand, thought they're the senior guys. They're the ones who should be the ones to be consulted. So they wanted to be governors, you know, wanted to have the power of governors without the responsibility. So when he's talking about the Sang bill, for example,
Yes.
a bill that comes and presupposes that a senator who is supposed to be, you know, an oversight body can now come and play the role of the executive. Then we're asking, if you really wanted to play the role of the executive, if you wanted to sit there and chair a team that decided how resources will be used, then run for governor. Stop coming out there to come and control so that you're the one in charge. And then the governor who was elected by the people, at times even more than the senator, becomes a mere secretary. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It is an issue of power. It's an issue of power. It is not going to solve the problem of public participation. And I mean, look at it this way. What, 3/4 of senators are now running for governor? You look at all the, you know, a lot of people now running for governor position.
That's not quite true.
Sorry, there are more than 3/4. So I don't have my figures, but we get the point. So the point I'm trying to make here, in jest, he understands where I'm going with this, is that people thought that governors were going to be glorified mayors. They are not read the Constitution. When governors took over, they realized, wait a minute, this is another source of power. This is a power that can actually, you know, propel somebody to greater heights in their community. And because a lot of traditional politicians don't really care about wananchi, they only care about power, ni nani mkubwa kuliko mwingine, that's where the fight began. And if you look at some of these, you know, hearings, you go to the Senate and you listen to the hearings.
Yes.
And you listen to some of the senators speaking, you can really tell that they really don't care about public, you know, resources. They are trying to fix somebody.
I don't think
they are
so.
trying to,
Okay, we'll come to you.
to get somebody. I mean, you've seen the charades.
Yes.
You've seen the charades in the
think so,
Senate
the greatest respect.
where senators go there and they. No, I'm saying, you know, I'm saying some senators. I mean, I've had personal
I think you should
experiences.
allow me to clarify that.
Right.
I think it's important.
You'll get a sporting chance. Well, let's just hear from Joshua Kiptoo. Yeah, carry on.
Now, a quick one is that I would just qualify what Governor Alfred talks about, the allure of power. It's two things, power and money. In that the main reason why the governor's seat has become the most hotly contested across, in fact, is even rivaling now the presidency. And you could see that a surge of interest, right from members of National Assembly.
Yes.
And of course, it's true, quite a number of senators ended up going for governorship. It's simply because I think that is where we get our twisted leadership wrong, in the sense that the allure of money and power. Before 2013, most Kenyan leaders did not know how it will pan out in terms of the position of senator, the position of governor, which will have more money, which will have more power. I think the biggest so far, or in fact the biggest disappointment to senators is that they ended up realizing their role is quite flowery, in the sense that they have to fight with the National Assembly for the oversight role in this way. You have the National Assembly that is stuck in the old constitution mentality that Parliament revolves around National Assembly. Senate has nothing to do. So at the end of the day, the senators for the first 2-3 years were fighting so hard to clearly demarcate their mandate. To be specific, if you remember, the Senate struggled to stamp its authority when it came to revenue allocation. That they would pass a certain amount, but the National Assembly would go nullify. So they had that tough war. But increasingly, midway through, I think their focus turned to the county governments. In the sense that, that's why I'm saying, the county governments borrow the bad behaviors. And that's how our leadership is all about. It's about who has the cash, who. In fact, when you have the cash, you control power. So you are powerful because you have the money, and governors are juggernauts because of that. In fact, these elections has just demystified that small bit, because most Kenyans feared that with an incumbent governor who has amassed so much in 4-5 years, defeating that person will be difficult. But that has been proven wrong because citizens participate. Now, quickly to add on the idea of public participation, it is two-way. we have a culture which is permeating both from leadership to the citizens about what leadership is about. You have a citizen that is hopeless and has given up with the leadership that only relies on handouts and what direct benefit can they have from the individual leaders, to the extent that public participation does not garner enough really support. In fact, I remember there was a time, I've picked that in Wasingishu, Mandago, when Churchill Live went to Eldoret, and the numbers were overwhelming. And Mandago even made a joke and said, if only we would get half this crowd when we call them out to come audit our financial year and, for example, see our plans for the next financial year, we would go so far. But we call for a public participation, but most citizens are not interested to come in. And that is why
is it they're not interested, or they don't really understand
it gives room now to the governors now to choreograph, as Senator Kembi was saying. Now that majority are not really interested, there's that state of hopelessness. They don't think it helps, because the citizens will tell you, even if we go for that forum, what changes? The governor already has made a budget. The county executive has already made a budget. They will bulldoze it through the county assembly. And with finished. So at the end of the day, you find that the public participation is something that I think going into the second administration, if the citizen can take it up,
yes,
because it should come from the citizens,
yes,
let the county executive and the county governments be put to task. And then the most important, or the missing link here again, is the county assembly. I find a disconnect between the county assembly and the Senate.
Right.
Because the Senate has played its role, yes, but as to how much they have empowered the county assemblies is now the question. If only they would take the same message and try to forge a very powerful connection with the county assembly, the county governments would be.
And if I can add before the senator replies to that, and this is where the point is. You see, you form a government in the county. You are accountable to the county assembly. And so it is the county assembly that is supposed to hold you accountable. I expect the Senate to play its role in strengthening the county assembly, so the county assembly can actually do its job properly.
Yes.
But the Senate now tries to do the same job that is being done by the county assemblies. For example, you're audited. The audit says you take your papers to the county assembly. So you go to the county assembly, you go through the whole explanation. After you finish that, you are called to the Senate to go through the same procedure. It is true that the Senate has the responsibility of auditing what goes on, in the counties, yes, and the courts have said yes, they have the right to do that. But the Senate is supposed to be a bigger house, looking at the bigger Kenya, not just looking at county by county by county. But they have spent their time really not trying to change the country, not trying to look at governance from the national government, because Parliament, the national Parliament, is supposed to be really scrutinizing the national government. But they have taken their role to scrutinize the county government, which is a good thing, because we have to be accountable. I don't mind being scrutinized. But by doing so, they have actually diminished, and they are putting down the role of the county assemblies. These first 4 years were tricky because of political affiliations. You go to some counties in this country, depending on where you are affiliated, you find that the governor, the senator, all the MPs, all the MCAs are in one party. Yes. And they all respond to one person. So in some of those places, you don't know whether you're getting proper accountability. But the Senate has gone around trying to, to show how governors are small and try to put down governors as much as possible, and accusing governors of corruption.
Thank you.